Hey, this is Walt again with Raybuck Auto Body Parts, and we're continuing our 6-speed transmission swap. This is day 13. Last night I was able to get the center section in the car. I wanted to get a little bit further, but didn't get as much done as I would have liked. You can see it up in there. Had to clean up some of the gasket and stuff on there. But tonight we're going to work on getting the axles in, getting the brakes in, and getting that all buttoned up. Show you a little bit about the rear end here. In this, we run a 9-inch Ford rear end. This is, we run the Strange axles. It's their street strip axle, but I've been very happy with this axle. Had it on the street for years. You know, the cars run, you know, mid-8s, and it's in a 3,500 pound car. Never had any problems with the axles. You always want to look at the splines, especially if you're racing the car. Look at the splines. Sometimes when the axles are starting to go, you'll see these splines start to get like a little bit of a curve in them as they start to twist. But these are pretty beefy axles. These are 35 spline axles, so they will take quite a bit of abuse, as well as the big axles. Also run 5/8 inch studs on them, so that helps as well. On when you're running a lot of power, sometimes you actually see the axles, sorry, not the axles, the wheel studs will actually bend from launching the car. So, but just cleaning this up to get it back in the car. And one thing I do like to do, these axles, the way these work is there is the outer portion of this bearing is pressed onto the axle, and that's what retains the axle in the car. On a 9-inch there is no, like on a, say, a GM 12 bolt, you would have a ring up here where when you put the axles in, there's a clip that goes around there and keeps the axle from sliding in and out of the car. On a 9-inch Ford rear end, this bearing is pressed on, and that's what holds the axle in the car. The other thing is the bearing. There's actually basically 2 races, and it comes apart. It's not like a one-piece sealed bearing. And in between, so we have what you would call like the outer race here, and then this inner race which goes in the axle. Now typically when you put these in, this race would be on the bearing as well, but I do something a little bit different. These axles, the way that they seal, this race goes in and kind of stops. You can't see it, but there's a flat area behind it. So this race goes in and stops against the axle. And when both races are together, there is this rubber, you can see here, that's between the 2 races. And when you tighten the axle flange down, it squeezes this rubber and kind of causes it to like gap up in the middle, and that's supposed to seal the axle. That rubber would be like up in this groove, and when you tighten everything up, it's supposed to create a seal in there. But what I've found is it works pretty good, but every once in a while I would get a little bit of a leak. So what I started doing was, behind this race, back in here, I would paint a sealant on there, and basically it almost kind of glues this race into the axle and prevents rear end grease from getting behind that race, because I would start to get a little bit that would just kind of, you know, trickle out of the bottom. And the product that I like to use for that and for a lot of applications is this. You can see that. It's called Permatex Super 300 Forma Gasket. This stuff is like a brown, thick consistency, and it has like, I forget what what it is, but it will hold. Like, it is really good at sealing things and preventing leaks on things that are, you know, may have some pressure behind them. So it goes on very thin though. It's not something you put on thick like a silicone or anything. It'd be something that you would use just to coat a gasket, or in this case, coating the backside of those race. And it works really well. It has, I can't remember the numbers, but it has, you know, very high heat rating, and you know, holds fluids in where there's any kind of pressure behind them. So I use this on a lot of different things. Like I said, this, you know, instead of using Teflon tape on a lot of things, I'll use this for drain plugs and, you know, other things like that, because I've just found that once this stuff goes on, like, you don't have any problems with leaking. It is kind of a pain to clean up. It's very sticky, so whatever you turn to get it on, it's going to stay on. But I have found that using carburetor cleaner will cut it pretty well. So anywhere that I have it, I'll use carburetor cleaner, you know, to clean it off when I need to clean the surface. I actually use this on the gasket that goes between the center section and the rear end housing. I just put a light coat on both sides just to seal that up a little bit. So, but we get started on these axles and hopefully get these in tonight. Okay, so we got the axles back in, got the brakes back on. So pretty much the rear end is buttoned up, everything's tight, and just got to get some rear end grease for it. Put that in there and start moving on to, I don't know, probably get the drive shaft in there next and start working on the pedals. I have to bleed all the brakes again since I had to take the master cylinder off. So we will work on that, and getting pretty close.